few minutes today to really work through a final expense appointment. One of the biggest things that we have had over the last couple of weeks is agents reach out to us who are currently in the insurance industry, whether they're doing 100% Medicare and they want to try to do a little final expense, or they are in final expense trying to get more sales, or better yet, they're brand new into business. So what we're going to do in this video this morning is just take a few minutes to let me tell you what has actually worked for us and several of our partners over the last couple of years. We've been doing final expense now since 2006. And one thing we know is that it creates more opportunity for an agent to get into the house. With the Medicare rules and regulations, it really has become a good opportunity for agents to be able to expand their portfolio of products to be able to truly be that one-stop shop. Because I can tell you one thing right now, if you're currently selling Medicare and you're not doing final expense, somebody else is getting in that door to offer final expense. If you're currently doing final expense, then somebody else is more than likely getting there into the client's house and doing Medicare. So what we're trying to do is really help you become that one-stop shop for agents. So today, just a few minutes of your time, we're going to work through how to grow your final expense business, but not only that, how to get a sale and actually close the deal. So number one that we always ask is, how are you getting to the kitchen table? Hang on a second. How to get to kitchen table? That's the first question. So you have, and I'm just going to do direct mail DM. So DM stands for direct mail. So number one is direct mail. Number two, you could be doing door knocks, just straight out cold calling. So I'm just going to do DK. Number three could be telemarketing leads, where actually you have somebody who sets you a preset appointment. So I'm going to do TM. And then number four, you can do digital. A lot of people doing social media. Google is another thing that people are doing. So we're going to do some kind of digital leads, whether it's Facebook, whether it's search engine, Google, whatever you want to call it, but some type of digital. And then the last thing, which is always the best, is referrals. And then we'll just mention cross-selling or whatever it may be. So I'm just going to do CS for cross-selling. So, and there may be other ways that you're getting in front of people. It is, hey, give us a call because we want to learn more ways to be able to increase our clients. So how do you get to the kitchen table? Either you're doing direct mail, whether you're doing door knocks, whether you're doing telemarketing leads, whether you're doing digital of some type, whether you're doing referrals, or whether you're doing cross-selling. How are you getting to the table? So now, whether it's one of these three or four, number one, if you're doing direct mail, if you're dropping final expense leads, right now we're doing final expense leads, and we get a per lead deal where you can, minimum order is like 20. You can contact somebody here at the office and we can get you in contact with a lead company and you can order those leads. We have a free list that we give agents, what we call door knocks. It's just a list of people in the area, 65 to 85 or whatever demographics you want to use. You could choose county, zip code, whatever you want. Those are actually free to you as long as you have at least 3 contracts with South Atlantic. Telemarketing leads, we have several telemarketing companies that we do business with. And basically that's just a preset appointment of somebody calling into an area saying, Miss Jones is going to be, this is such and such with X company. We're going to have an agent in your area tomorrow and talk about the state approved final expense burial insurance. Digital, we have several companies that we've worked with that could get you set up on Facebook leads. A lot of agents are trying to transition a little more into the senior population on Facebook because the senior population is becoming more and more involved in the social media world. Then referrals is always the best. Somebody call out, hey, I got an agent who's helping me do this for X amount of years now. If you're looking for somebody to help you with your final expense, give my agent a call, which is always the best. And then last but not least is cross-selling, which we've been talking about that over the last couple of weeks. If you're currently in a house on one appointment, how to cross-sell and talk about another product. If you're in the house on a current product, how to cross-sell and talk about another product. So how do you get to the kitchen table? So let's say we've already got to the door. We come in, talk to the client. Now we are sitting at the kitchen table. So the number 2 thing that we work on is what are the right questions to ask, which is very important when you're selling final expense, because you can actually talk yourself out of a sale before you even have an opportunity to make the sale. So some of the questions that I'm just going to do questions to ask. One of the questions to currently ask is simple. Ms. Jones, do you currently have any final expense or burial insurance? So a lot of people, so let me unpack this real quick. In my opinion, and this is, like I said, is strictly my opinion, you can take it for what it's worth. You have 2 types of insurance in the life insurance side of it. You have life insurance and you have burial or final expense insurance. Even though at the end of the day they're technically the same thing, but in my opinion, life insurance is for your loved one to have money to either replace your current income when you do pass away so that they can live or do whatever they want to do. And then final expense or burial insurance is simply what it says, to cover funeral expenses or any extra bills that may happen when you pass away. So when you're talking to a client, they simply, the first thing that they always say, oh, I got plenty of life insurance. Well, do you got plenty of life insurance? Perfect. Do you have burial insurance or final expense insurance? So help them to understand the difference between life insurance and burial insurance, or as we also call it, final expense insurance. So when you really break down the difference between these two, all of a sudden it becomes a question in their mind. Well, wait a minute. I do got life insurance, but I don't want to take $8,000 to $10,000 or $12,000 out of my life insurance for my wife or for my son or my daughter, when I can add a burial insurance or final expense insurance, whatever you want to call it, to my portfolio or to my estate or will, whatever you want to, however you want to address it, so that little Susie, little Johnny, or Mary, or the husband, or whatever, will have something extra when they do pass away. So number 1, you need to understand the difference between life insurance, final expense, and burial insurance, however you want to call it. Number 2, another question to ask is, if you have today, if you pass away, God forbid you do, who would be in charge of who would be in charge of planning and paying for your benefits? Whether that's so who will be in charge? I got horrible handwriting. So who will be in charge? You pass away today, Miss Jones or Mr. Jones. Who is going to be in charge to plan your funeral, to pay for your funeral, or whatever the situation may be? Well, my son, Johnny, would be in charge, or my wife, or whoever it may be. So let's say today it's Johnny. We'll just use that name as the beneficiary. So for what you're going to do from this point on is you're going to address everything by Johnny. So, Miss Jones, you pass away today, or Miss Jones, you pass away today, Johnny's going to be in charge of paying your funeral. Miss Jones, Mr. Jones, today when you pass away, does Johnny have enough money, or do you currently have enough money to cover a funeral cost or cremation, whatever it may be? To give you an idea, an average funeral is between $8,000 $8K to $12K. Cremation is $1K to $6K. Now you may think, well, I can do it cheaper, I can do it more, whatever it is, but that's just kind of an average in my opinion. So, an average funeral this day and time runs anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000. Cremation is anywhere between $1,000 to $6,000, however you want to do it. A lot of people say, I just want to get cremated and be done with it, or I want to have a nice funeral. So, Miss Jones, as we know, $8,000 to $12,000 for a funeral, $1,000 to $6,000 for cremation. Do we think that, does Johnny have that kind of money to cover that? Or are you going to leave them with a burden to have to come up with that money out of pocket? When today, we could sit down and make sure that we have that taken care of, so God forbid the day that something does happen to you, Johnny's going to have everything he needs so that he don't have to worry about the stress of not only losing his mother or his father, but he also don't have to worry about having to come up with money to pay for the funeral. Because I can tell you one thing, the day you pass away and you go to the funeral home and your son or your daughter or whoever it is or your wife plans that funeral, 99.99999, better yet 100% of the time, the funeral home wants their money. The question becomes is how are we going to pay for it? So today we can take care of that as we're sitting here, and you got to get on the same page as they are. You got to make it where they can understand that they don't want to leave Johnny with that burden. So after you, number one, you explain to them the difference between life insurance and burial insurance, and they understand that they don't have neither, or they may have life insurance, but they don't have this, or maybe they do have this, but they don't have enough, and they need to add more. Whatever it may be, after you address the situation, then you talk about how much an average funeral or cremation runs this day and time, 2020. So you discover this, you discover this. The next part of the puzzle is you then begin to quote it out to the client. So what I usually do is I ask the age, and I go through just kind of a rough health questions. So now it's time to number 3, quote. And I mean, I'm gonna get a little deeper on that, but basically my point is I just ask 3 questions. Number 1, in the past 5 years, and the reason I do 5 years is because a lot of companies are 2 years, a lot of companies are 4 years, and I just kind of hit it all in 5. I figured that kind of gives me a wide a range of time to be able to figure out what product or what carrier that I want to go with, so I kind of have an idea. Because one thing you don't want to do is start trying to quote, and then let's say, for example, you quote them $40, and the reality is it comes back $60, because I mean that just throws the whole deal out of whack. So you want to get as dialed in on a quote as possible, but you don't want to commit to that quote until you get all the way through the underwriting, the phone interview. So the way I do it is, in the past 5 years, Ms. Jones, number 1, have you had a heart attack, stroke, or cancer? In the past 5 years, heart attack, stroke, or cancer, yes or no? And let's say it's no. In the last 5 years, have you used oxygen or been diagnosed with COPD or used an inhaler or some type of inhaler or whatever it may be in the past 5 years? Well, the question is yes or no. So let's say that was no. In the past 5 years, have you used any kind of tobacco? Yes or no? So once I get through these, heart attack, stroke, or cancer, use oxygen, no, blah, 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 tobacco, and the last thing I say is, have you had any surgeries or been hospitalized or been in the hospital in the past 5 years? Yes or no? No. Perfect. So once we get through all these questions, then I go to my quoting tool, or excuse me, I go to the plans that I represent, and then I figure out what's going to be the best plan for the client. Once again, you do not want to quote a definite quote, because you got to let them know, hey, I got to do a phone interview, or once I submit the application to the home office, they got to do background checks, they run an MIB, they run a script check. So there may be something that pops up that we can't see today, or maybe that you're not telling me. I'm not saying you're not telling me something. I'm just saying that this is kind of a rough quote. So take it for what it's worth. Let's go ahead and get this deal issued and try to get in there and close the deal. So once we get through the whole quoting process and I know what carrier I want, then I'm going to go to my piece of paper, and we have a quoting sheet here at South Atlantic that you can contact and we can get you, or I usually take a legal pad and I create this right here. And at the very top, I put Johnny. I write Johnny in big letters. So Johnny. Why am I using Johnny's name? Because we want to get on the same page. Once I direct everything towards Johnny, then it gets that client thinking, I don't want to leave Johnny with a burden of having to pay for my expenses, my funeral, whatever it may be. And then I quote 8,000, 10,000, and $12,000. Let's say, for example, $46. We're just going to keep simple math. $56 and $66. Simple as that. So, Miss Jones, today, we've already talked about, we know you need life insurance, final expense burial insurance, so we don't want to leave Johnny with a burden. We went through all your health questions, and in the past 5 years, for the most part, everything we can see here, unless there's some kind of medications that you take that maybe we're not thinking about today, between $8,000, $10,000, and $12,000, what do you feel is affordable to you that will give Johnny the opportunity to be able to cover your funeral expenses and cover any extra expenses that may happen or may come about when you pass away? Which one of these do you think makes sense? And let them talk and just figure it out. Because one thing you don't want to do, number one, you do not want to get into a monthly premium where they can't afford it because it's not going to last long, and therefore you're going to get a charge back. Number two, if you're dealing with, here you go, I'll tell you what, take a note real quick. Piece of paper, pen, hit it right here. If you are dealing with anybody on Medicaid, low income, Medicare, Medicaid, LIS, whatever it may be, do not give premium above $30 a month. Just don't do it. Now, I know you're probably going to say, well, Jason, you don't understand, they can afford it, blah, blah, blah. I don't care if they can or not. Get them going at $30 a month, and then down the road, if you feel like they can afford it, then go back and add more. But one thing that we have seen over the last 14 years, I guess I've been in this business for the last 14 years, is when we look at agents' businesses fell off the books, 85% of it is low-income people who you go in there, you write them a $90 monthly premium or a $66 monthly premium, and they're only getting $700 to $1,000 a month, and $300 of it's prescriptions or whatever it may be. We've just seen do not go above $30, and you're probably disagreeing with it, and that's fine if you are, but I'm just telling you that I have seen a better closing rate and a better retention on an agent's book of business, including myself, when I don't go above $30. Because you don't want to go out there and get a $500, $600, $700, $800 commission, and then all of a sudden next month it comes through and it charges back. So go back to this. Once you don't go above $30. Once you go into quote and you figure out which one of these they can afford, then you start the application process. So let's say, for example, they decide to do $56 a month. So this is where I really want to kind of dial in for the next few minutes and help you close this deal. Because I believe the number one thing that stops agents from being successful in the final expense business, or anything that they got to ask for, a check. So many people get scared, and I will say scared, when it's time to ask for a check. So once you understand that $56 is what they can afford, then you sit there. You've already went through the basic health questions because you asked the past 5 years. What I then do is I go back through the health questions before I even start filling out the information. So let's say, for example, you're using a company, a carrier, and whatever it may be. So let's just use, here we go, $56, and I'm looking at Transamerica. So I start in the application, and I don't write the name or anything, because last thing you want to do is waste an application. So what I do is I say, Miss Jones, we're going to say you qualify for $56 a month for $10,000. Once again, we got to submit it to the company to make sure that you do qualify for that. But let me go through about 8 questions here and make sure, so I'm going to try to get as close as I can to make sure you get approved at $56. Number one, in the past X amount of years, are you currently confined to a hospital, confined to a wheelchair, need help with your daily activities, whatever it may be. So then go through all of those questions. And if everything's no, then go back and start filling in. Now your name again is as it is on your driver's license, last name. Now what's a good mailing address to mail that policy to? And then keep on working through the application. What so many agents do is they sit back and they let the client pretty much, they're waiting on the client to tell them, I think I'm ready to do this. Yeah, I'll hear $56. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and pay for the year, blah, blah, blah. That does not happen. You got to be the agent that you are, and you got to sell the deal. You've already sold the deal, understanding that they need it because they don't have any life insurance. We understand that $56 a month is what they can afford. Now it's your job to close the deal. You're doing the right by the client, you're taking care of the client, and you're putting them in a situation where they can afford the premium. Start working the application. Get done to the application. Now, Ms. Jones, on that right here, do you want that drafted out? What's the best day of the month to have this drafted out of? Choose it, and then keep on working through the beneficiaries. Now, Johnny, we know he's the beneficiary. What's his last name again? The same as yours? Good deal. And keep on working all the way through. And then you get done, submit the application. If you got to do a telephone interview, whatever it may be, get the deal done, close the deal, leave a brochure, leave a receipt of the policy, everything you can. And then here's another thing. This is one big thing that I think agents miss out on. Is when it comes time, you get the policy back in the mail, you deliver the policy. You take policy to client. Do it on Mondays, do it on Fridays, whatever it may be. Take the policy to the client. Sit down with that client. Let them understand this is what they have. This is how many thousand they have. It is whole life insurance. It never runs out, or it's a 2-year graded, whatever they qualify for. Explain to them. Also, Ms. Jones, the day you pass away, here's my card. Now, your son's the beneficiary, Johnny. Do you mind if I reach out to Johnny and give him my information, let him know that I'm your life insurance agent, that if he ever needs anything, to call me? Another thing we have, Legacy Safeguard is another deal that we offer here at South Atlantic, and it's pretty much a pre-planned funeral guide, brochure, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call it. You can plan everything, or your client can plan everything from A to Z on their funeral. What they want to wear, who they want to preach at it, who they want to sing at it, what songs they want, who they want to be their pallbearer, whatever it may be. Your client can go ahead and take care of that at no cost to them. It's a free service to them. So when you're out there, kind of recapping real quick, number one is how are you getting to the kitchen table? The final expense business is a great business. We tell people every day, if you're not doing final expense, you're missing a great opportunity to make more income. How are you getting to the kitchen table? Whether it's direct mail, whether it's working through your Medicare supplement clients, cross-selling over to final expense. Now, if you're doing Medicare Advantage, obviously you can't cross-sell. But if you're doing final expense and you really understand that they have a Medicare Advantage, they may need you to help them with it, then you do it compliantly, scope of appointments, come back 48 hours, whatever it may be. But however you're getting in front of those clients, make sure you do it consistently. And when you get there, ask the questions. And we can go a little deeper if you want, if you like this webinar, or excuse me, this YouTube video that we're going through some of the information, give us a call. We got tons of final expense presentations that we can do. And like I said, I'm just going by the last 14 years of experience on my end, the things that have worked for me and things that we are currently doing for our current partners each and every day. Because one thing we believe in building relationships that delivers results. And we want to make sure that when you partner with South Atlantic, we're giving you all the tools, the resources, whatever products, commission levels, you name it. We want to make sure that we are your one-stop shop so that we don't have to worry about you going to any other agencies or whatever it may be. We want to be your partner. So if you got any questions, give us a call. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. We're all social media outlets, so give us a call, and we look forward to catching back up with you on the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. For more content, hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.